So, some motivation behind why I'm having a session. So we've talked about Wayland for a little while now. It seems to be pretty wide agreement that in the future we will be moving away from X at some point. And what I would like to see happen is a little bit of momentum in that direction, so we can start trying out some Wayland stuff for Precise as an opt-in feature, and see what we can do to make that happen. So, in particular, what I've been thinking is LightDM, which is the display manager that manages the X servers currently, has always been architected to support Wayland in the future. So perhaps we can get an option where you can turn Wayland on in your display manager and basically use Wayland, and then we can find out which cars does it work on, are there performance issues, it does input work for certain people, or which parts of the input stack are not going to be working.
So I don't make sure I see it.
So I don't know, I'm looking for ideas, what people think about this.
Okay, so a few clarifying questions. You are talking about, by the time you get into the session, running a rooted X server.
That's correct.
Yes.
So just from the session's point of view, it will still be in X, but from the display manager's point of view, it will be through Wayland, and your user switching will have a crossfade. And things will be separated in an easier fashion.
So the LightDM greeter session will also be connected to a rooted X server.
Correct.
So this is just basically a fancy way of switching between X servers.
Yes, but the crucial thing that will come out of this is number one, does your display work? Does it work as fast as it did with the current solution? Does your input work? And if not, how can we get that feedback back to the people to get that stuff in order, so when we really do think about making a serious switch, everything's working well and we know the limitations or the advantages.
Do you have plans for lock screen?
Yes, the lock screen
would be lock screen and screensaver would be the two obvious things to do with this, and policy kit authentication would be.
That would be an add-on we could.
Would be the three. Secure path authentication would be the three obvious things that you could do with this.
Do you plan any out of band indication that you're on the secure path?
Nope.
Okay. Do we plan? I'm not sure that we have plans at this point. I think.
So no magical keystrokes or like blinking lights or.
Should we? I think so. The question, I guess, that's what we're having the session about. I guess we could have. I guess you could hook a secure attention key into this.
Just as a test thing, just to show it can be done.
Yeah, to show it can be done.
Why not?
Yeah. Well, because it will obviously take time and effort.
I'll tell you another thing. This is obviously not something that I'm going to commit to, or I expect anyone else in Canonical will commit to. This is not part of making Precise stable. This is something that I think we have an opportunity to do, and the amount of work may be quite small, so it's worth doing.
Yeah.
Well, we've already got Wayland package, so.
Exactly. So it's building on this work we've already got.
Right. I haven't tested that runs on the console, but if it doesn't, then probably when we update to a newer version, that it will.
So from a user's point of view, currently with Wayland, you need to know what you're doing, and you set up you run it manually and all that, right, to test it.
There's a startup script, so it's just install Wayland demos and then wstart.
So
you can do that.
You can't do real work in it, and it's not easy to set up.
There's a terminal.
So
it's fairly easy to set up, but you can't do any real work.
So if we do this right, it should be easy to set up. It's the sort of thing that OMG Ubuntu could say, hey, do you want to play with Wayland? And then we can start getting real numbers of, back from people, from normal users. Can they use it day to day? What are the differences? With a big disclaimer, do not turn this on, because it's going to break your system.
Yeah.
You had asked about how we forward feedback back up to them. They don't have a bug tracker, but they do have a mailing list, and they seem to be pretty responsive to questions and issues.
So we could track stuff from Launchpad and send mail.
Yeah, and I do have a package set up, so we can file bugs against that and and the X team subscribe to it, so we'll see the issues if they get filed.
Right.
So what are you going to use as the compositor? Are you going to write that? Or?
I have no idea. So this is where my knowledge of Wayland is pretty much non-existent.
There's a demo compositor that's included in the Wayland demos package, and it's probably good enough for this.
We just integrate, like, we add it, fold the code into LightDM essentially.
So from the architecture LightDM's point of view, I think this would be an external process that I would prod when I want you to switch, and I would start up. So I think that's the
I
strategy in order to
think
start.
that the
That
demo
could work.
compositor should work as an X server substitute for this purpose.
So
anyway.
LightDM can
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you that a new session has turned up and add into that, and then prod you to switch between them.
So
Could
I'm not sure it
I
supports
don't
all the
think it-
features.
So we could probably add those.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably.
what's
Sorry, go.
what's the interplay like with virtual terminals? Is it
This-
like Wayland ends up on one VT
Yes.
and it multiplexes that to
Yes.
the different X servers?
We would,
Yeah.
when you run Wayland, you would not be using virtual terminals to switch. So you get rid of all the switching glitches and all those issues, and we would have a crossfade or a rotating cube, whatever effect you want.
So I'm... Yeah, so we could... It would almost certainly be technically possible to have the compositor as an external program to the LightDM daemon. That would just need...
Because I think
Prodding.
ultimately the way LightDM works, that it doesn't take any of those decisions on graphics. Different setups may want different compositors, so I think it has to be external in the same way the greeters are external.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it would essentially be...
We have a question coming from IRC about what would replace X11 forwarding, and the answer is that X11 forwarding would continue to work because we're still running an X server.
Yes.
There's
And-
also
Except on the
discussion.
login screen.
There's also
Well,
been
we
work
work
and
on the
discussion
login
on the Wayland list for network transparency. So
I
the
thought the login.
the
screen
issue
was gonna
of
be
Wayland not being network
client.
transparent is not. I don't think it's a relevant issue.
And
I
if
think it
we
confuses me. I thought the point was to eliminate all these intermediate layers so that you can be more efficient on the local side, and as soon as you do need network transparency, just use X.
And we have...
Otherwise, isn't that just going to be another X?
There's so many people often overlook when they're like, oh, what's going to do with network transparency in Wayland?
Use X.
Forever. Well, even if you don't, I mean, there's the new Broadway back in the GTK that offers a different, the problem is you want to access your apps remotely. Does it really matter if that's through exporting through a web browser?
Exactly.
I don't think it does.
or through RDP or any number of other ways that people remotely access their apps. In fact, not very many people do X forwarding
Right.
because it's
Yeah.
not very good.
Especially if you're doing 3D applications of any kind, including like clutter and such, it's generally faster to just send the final image than it is to send all of the stuff to build the image.
Right.
Okay, so another question, like really going more towards the technical side of Wayland. Maybe you know this, Bryce. So basically, as I understand it, each X server will allocate itself a gem buffer and be drawing into this and coordinate with this compositing process. And the kernel has some trickery inside that basically once it passes off to the X server, that gem buffer that the X server has is like mapped to the same virtual memory that the graphics card is running its CRTCs
You
off.
can take a gem, you can get a gem buffer for the frame buffer. So the
Right,
area of graphics memory that, you can take a gem reference to the area of graphics memory that the CRTCs will scan out of.
But if you're going to be switching that's sort of my question. How do you hand that off between two X servers? Are you reconfiguring the CRTC or is there virtual memory trickery?
You reconfigure the CRTC as far as I'm aware. That's how page flipping works.
Okay.
Like page flipping is, I have this image here, I have this image here, I would like to display this image. You render your entire screen, render your entire image into some graphics memory, and you say, and now we render out of, and now we draw out of here, and now we draw out of here.
So
and now
we-
draw out of
That's
here.
page flipping. That's obviously not going to be glitching at all.
No,
Yeah, we have a buffer for each session on the video card, and we just flip them
and we
to server.
just tell which one to scan out of. Yeah.
Correct.
And then when you're doing the swap, you make a buffer for the transition
transition one,
scene
yeah.
and then switch to that temporarily. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in this case, what are any performance degradations we could imagine occurring?
There can be, more context switches is basically the is basically the only, when things are working right, more context switches are only the only problem for input events
Oh, we've
getting
also-
routed through Wayland.
We've also
So
had some-
input to Wayland to the X server, you're adding an extra context switch in there.
We've also had some problems with including the hardware acceleration code because it conflicts with other things.
But so the nice thing here is the compositor won't need that. The compositor will just set. The compositor won't draw anything essentially.
Yeah, it's stepping out of the way once
Like-
it hands control over.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter how slow the compositor is because the compositor doesn't touch buffers in this.
That's what I was getting at, saying like, how could there be a problem?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and as for that IRC comment, the not using X11 is entirely out of scope of this session.
That would be kind of the next step. We can perhaps have some application, maybe the greeter could be
So,
non-X11.
yeah, like-
and then we can start thinking about the session, so we can make that progress and seeing what happens when you start taking the middle bits out. Can we get to a
So
future solution?
the roadmap would be maybe the greeter is then a native Wayland client, then maybe we run rootless X servers for each application plus native Wayland clients, and then and then the set of applications that we need to run on rootless X servers slowly diminishes until no one bothers running them at all in that far and distant future.
Unity 2D could probably happen a little earlier than a lot other than say Unity 3 plus Viz, obviously, because Qt has a kind of a working Wayland backend already, so that might be able to happen a little sooner than Unity 3D.
And I hope this will give a platform for these other systems
Sure.
to start testing. So they can test all this stuff early.
The idea of Compass being a Wayland compositor is almost laughable, so sure.
Do we know the status on toolkits supporting Wayland? other than-
GTK experimental support.
Yeah, I just saw some emails this week that they've gotten a couple of simple applications to do some stuff on it, but
I mean, there's experimental support is probably quite well to the point of, you get mouse and keyboard commands and you can draw pictures to the screen. That
Is the development active around that? Or is it just kind of a proof of concept?
Can you look up the LightDM source bugs and see if there's one on Wayland?
really
You post that on there.
all the window management related functionality, various texts and stuff. You have to define how you want to do that in Wayland. And then there are also some things like grab, which no one is really sure how they want to do in Wayland. And you can get GTK running on Wayland. You can run some of your apps, and they might appear to work at first, but that doesn't really mean that it's
Okay, so
There should be
we're gonna have
support
X11 for a while.
Yeah, we still don't have anything to replace like the whole setup around how a window communicates that it wants to be a certain size, or that it needs to be on top, or grab so that your menus work.
So, well, that's all off in Blue Sky Future. Well,
Yeah.
out of scope for this session.
So what's the convention for, like, if I allocate myself a buffer, I start drawing into it, and then I want to tell a compositor, here's my buffer, start doing stuff with it. Is that like, do I communicate using Unix sockets? Is that like a question?
That's a socket. Yeah, there is a socket interface, and
use libwayland.
yeah, you use libwayland, and that's the equivalent of libx11.
That's about all. That's 90% of what libwayland does. Like,
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
figured.
Buffer, can I draw into it? Like you open ED down here, you and
It's
then
like
there's
90%
no-
of this is dealing with the kernel, actually.
Yeah. And then Wayland itself doesn't, force any policy on how you handle interaction between the applications and the client. So that's something that's actually decided by the compositor. Like how do you have the client set an urgent answer, how does the client have to take focus or things like that.
So there currently isn't any
Right.
policy on that.
Right.
Yeah. So I think my understanding of how that will develop is that people will do stuff, and then people will write extensions and then fold back in, and then the extensions that make sense can be folded into some sort of standard. But at the moment, there is no implementation of anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whoever gets there first sets the standard, more or less, because there's nothing there, so.
And they don't typically get folded back into Wayland. They get folded into a Wayland topic.
But certain interfaces could become standardized. Yes.
Seems pretty clear to me that the proper technology to be using for this is, in fact, dbus.
In fact, I talked about that at one point.
Org.freedesktop.window manager.
Yeah.
So,
I actually have talked with Christian about that at one point, and he was like, no. I didn't use dbus because it's actually a stupid way of doing IPC for window managers, for windowing systems.
I was actually thinking that we could, like, just send the pixels through there too.
Oh, yeah, totally. That'd be awesome.
So I was looking for a bug. There isn't one open apparently. I should open a bug on LightDM to add this support. And anyone who's interested in working on this should just feel free to come around and have a go at it, because no one's going to be committing to it, but it'd be a really interesting project, and really help would be good.
Do we need a mailing list? Should we use LightDM?
Yes, the LightDM mailing list, free desktop.
So I feel like we had this exact same discussion 6 months ago.
I don't think we actually...
We didn't take
I think we were
these
kind
action
of,
items.
yeah, I think we were kind of waving our hands that this would happen someday,
Yeah.
and I think now we're waving our hands and saying, now is the day that this can start happening.
So,
Yeah.
so 6 months ago, LightDM was very X-dependent, and now the architecture is completely X-independent. So you can plug in different windowing display systems.
Like DM on Windows.
I don't know how the Windows architecture is. I guess so.
So, like, where's the cool bling for us to look at?
There ain't no bling until we build it.
Well, you could put
The
Yeah.
tech preview is what we're planning on
Yeah.
providing.
Is that what
Yes. Yeah. There will be no Wayland.
apt-get install Wayland demos.
Oh, yeah, why not?
What graphics card is it?
Intel.
Once it
Yeah,
works,
it should
sure.
work.
It should work. Maybe.
Apt-get install Wayland demos.
Yeah.
You can get your flower and your
Hopefully it'll
terminal.
work.
Who knows?
Maybe. On top of X, at least, you should be able to get it.
Oh, this is beautiful.
Yeah. There's a wonderful X crash in the background.
I really like this interface.
We're going for a new text-heavy design.
Yes. But beautiful text.
Yeah, we take all the text out of the boot, so we have to make sure there's more in the session.
It's a worse start, right?
W-start, and then run W-start again until it doesn't crash.
Sounds about right.
So this gives us a lot of hope for this working in 6 months.
This is an old snapshot, so.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that if it's like continue running until it doesn't crash, like one of those tests is going to work in the next 6 months.
It crashes because there's a couple clients that have that trigger some bug.
So what about Wayland Upstream? Like, I guess we should engage with them over this, right? And are they interested? Where do we talk about this?
There's a Wayland IRC channel
I do,
where a lot
yeah.
of discussion
Also,
goes on.
it's
and a
kind
mailing
of
list that
fragmented
a little bit of
and-
discussion goes on.
This has been upgraded too many times. But hey! My. That is...
See,
Haha.
you can do work.
Although it obviously doesn't respect my key map.
Why would you ever want to?
Look at that. It's so pretty.
The script just starts up one of the Wayland demos at random. So each time you start it up, it'll start a different.
Also no key repeat. Interesting.
Yeah.
Things we'll start to find out pretty quickly.
So I think if you type Wayland and tab, I think it might pull the demos up, but
Wayland-run.
yeah, Wayland run. Yeah, if you run Wayland run, it'll do a random.
Complete the demo.
It'll do a random demo.
Not resolved, key sim, blah, blah.
So that's random demo number 1 to nothing. Okay.
Random, oh, whoops, wrong one. Okay, that, control C, yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, no C for me.
I want to see some flowers.
EGL user error, what? EGL not initialized. Without initialized screen.
Nope, and
You killed the terminal too, and
We lost the cursor.
Well, just kill the session
Did they
and
call
start
that
it up
Wayland
again.
flowers or something? There's the drag and drop demo.
Smoke demo now.
There it is. It's awesome.
What's the double list?
I want to see this.
lovely.
new and different.
I want to see fire.
Specified randomized.
I think you might actually have to kill
Oh,
I think you have to kill Wayland.
yeah, it said another one's running, so yeah. I don't think that killed it.
The old Magic 9.
Yeah.
Die. Die.
There you go.
There we go. And an event demo. I don't believe that that actually works. Can I go? Hey,
Hey there.
that is
That's not right either.
that's a slightly weird flower.
The pedals and
You could have all this in the next
More.
But
Question on IRC about Wayland drivers.
they don't
Drivers
have
are in
any.
the kernel. It's the kernel mode
That was
setting
Unity, I
drivers.
think.
yeah, so Wayland just uses kernel mode setting and EGL. So
So it won't run on NVIDIA, right?
There's actually,
So, no.
for Wayland, there's 3 drivers. There's the kernel driver, which is the same kernel driver that you're using. There's a Mesa driver, which is also the same one, and there's a Cairo driver.
oh, really? Chiron one, really?
You can do it on frame buffers.
Yeah.
Raw software rendered.
And the
That's got to be
Cairo
really
is new.
slow.
Are you sure it's not accelerated?
Oh, was that?
Because the Cairo tree has like all these like graphics hardware
It's
backend.
new.
Oh yeah, they
So-
have DRM one.
The
That,
GL.
Yeah,
They use
like
it on
it
it?
could be accelerated
What?
if you
Using a
have
driver.
an accelerated driver behind that.
I think it does.
Yeah.
Now let's crash it again. Wait.
what the? It's not quite clipping to the
Nope, and there it's dead.
divided by zero.
No, X is perfect.
This is why we need something new, right?
That's right.
There's nothing more to play
We
with.
got 2x people.
Are you the one that's wearing the shirt? If it isn't broken, take it apart and fix it.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much this. Yeah.
So that's about it.
Yeah.
Come and join in if you want to go crazy.
Questions? No questions.
No questions. What? No. No.
Like embedding it all?
Yes, you run. So yes, you run a Wayland compositor. You create your client and you run a Wayland compositor as that client, and then that's how you do sub windows at the moment. So you embed Wayland clients into you embed a Wayland client into your window by becoming a Wayland compositor.
But you're also still a Wayland client.
But you're also
named to the
still a
real
Wayland client.
compositor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been designed by Zillion.
Yeah, I heard you like Wayland's
Yeah.
That's actually how compositing works in X, I mean.
Well,
Yeah, pretty much. I
embed my window in your window.
do some GTA compositing. Yeah.
And then it all happens. Yeah. So, shall we list out under action items the set of things that need to happen for this to work? Yep.
We need to write.
What's that? Yeah.
We need to write a Wayland compositor. Or convert the existing ones.
And by we, you mean not you.
That's right.
So you probably want some way of making sure you don't turn this on for NVIDIA users too.
Well, this is
No,
going to be like
they will
opt-in,
just not
strictly
install.
opt-in.
I know, but I suppose there's only to a certain extent you can protect somebody from themselves.
I mean, to turn this on, you have to go to terminal. So you're going to be prepared to press up until F1 and go back to...
Except it's going to show up on OMG Ubuntu and say run this command and
Okay,
everybody's...
so call the package. Don't install this unless you really know.
Just have a breaks and
OMG does now clearly state on all those things, seriously, don't run this if you want your system break.
Well, no, that's a question.
can actually have
If you
breaks
have
for-
this set up to work in LightDM, if the user installs it, shouldn't that process also switch the system over to using that? I mean, what do you envision as far as like how the user enables
I
it?
would see configure in the config file. That's how I see it.
I mean, yeah, we could do
That would be one way. You could also, like, it also wouldn't be terribly hard for, LightDM to know that this can't work because there isn't a dev DRI node. I'm not sure if LightDM has.
So, the way LightDM does it is you have a seek type. There's currently an X local seek type which starts up X servers and does VT switching.
Yep.
We would make a Wayland local seek type.
Yep.
So when LightDM starts up, if there's no seats defined, it does an X local one by default. So the way you turn this on is you go into your console file and say there is one seat and it is a Wayland local seat.
Okay.
So we
And there's no way to fall, like,
no.
can
So
you fall back?
well, what happens is LightDM would quit if it couldn't run and failsafe X should start,
Okay.
which might say, hey, you've got Wayland support turned on. What do you really want to do?
Yep, okay. That sounds like a winner.
Can I have a pony?
Wayland,
Only if it runs in Wayland.
yeah.
Yeah. You can write a Wayland pony client.
It's like semi-translucent.
Yeah.
And to resize really
Abstract.
smoothly.
Yeah. And maybe have hooves of fire.
Lovely.
Hey, I've got some code for that.
the burning menus all over again.
Actually, that's the point. We can run something outside of the X server.
What's that?
We can run something
We
outside.
can run something, well, that was inside the X server, but,
Well, then there's point. It's got to be a Wayland mode.
oh, for the,
If we're running X inside Wayland,
yeah.
we can run something that X has no idea about, like a pony that jumps around in front of your screen.
Oh, yes, we absolutely
But
could.
you can only do that if you're compositing, which you don't want to do.
I know, we already are.
No, I mean compositing the X session. You want X to take over.
Well, we can have trivial composite of it as a one-to-one.
And
But then you
actually,
get the performance problem.
Yeah, it's just the
No,
context
it's-
switch though.
yeah, no, when X is the thing on top, then there won't be any context switching because it's full screen on
Right,
top.
but if we wanted to
add
draw
a
a
pony,
then-
drawing the pony will have a significant performance cost, yes.
So you can't have a pony. We obviously need to modify LightDM to support a Wayland local seek. I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Oh, I get. Oh, so optional ones here would be write a policy, like extend the trivial compositor to also be a policy kit authenticator.
You can put me down for updating the snapshot.
So I think someone looking at the Etherpad didn't catch the ponies discussion.